Velkommen til Films TV. Hvad har Tim Burtons Mars Attacks, David Cronenbergs Naked Lunch og Star Wars-filmen Imperiet slår igen til fælles? Jo, alle tre films fantastiske billeder blev skudt af den samme talentfulde mand, filmfotografen Peter Suschitzky, som for nylig gæstede København i forbindelse med et seminar om sit arbejde, der fandt sted på Filmskolen på Holmen. Vi fik interviewet Suschitzky om hans gloværdige karriere, umiddelbart efter hans foredrag, men inden vi præsenterer vores samtale, lægger vi ud med at anmelde ugens nye premierefilm.
There are things in this world worth fighting and dying for. We're warriors. It's who we are. It's what we do.
It's Three Musketeers. I came to Paris to be one of you.
En for alle og alle for en. Ja, de tre musketerer er tilbage på det store lærred, for hvem ved hvilken gang, og denne gang selvfølgelig serveret i 3D og med et utal af yderst upassende actionsekvenser og gadget-påhit. Så mange endda, at det er svært at tage filmen rigtig seriøst, men det er vist heller ikke meningen. I instruktørstolen finder vi Paul W.S. Anderson, hvis største bedrifter tæller filmatiseringer af computerspil som Mortal Kombat og Resident Evil, samt Alien vs. Predator og genindspilning af Death Race. Altså hårdt pumpet effektiv adrenalin-action uden den helt store eftertænksomhed. De tre musketerer i 3D er et kort stykke hen ad vejen et fipskægt bekendtskab, ikke mindst takket være et par veloplagte præstationer i filmens biroller. Christoph Waltz er som altid velanbragt i en slig skurkerolle, Milla Jovovich forførende femme fatale med glimt i øjet er simpelthen skøn, og så giver Orlando Bloom den alvorligt gas som modefixeret hertug med hang til juveler og letlevende damer. Derudover er der desværre ikke meget at råbe hurra for. 3 stjerner.
2.
Kvinderne på 6. sal er et herligt mix af spansk lidenskab og fransk elegance, der fungerer som en opkvikkende modgift mod det ustoppelige danske gråvejr. Samtidig med, at instruktøren Philippe Legier får os til at grine over sine finurlige karakterer, skaber han også plads til en smule selvreflektion uden at løfte sin pegefinger. Vi befinder os i 1960'ernes Paris, hvor rigmanden Jean-Louis Joubert og hans kone Suzanne lever et relativt ubekymret småborgerligt liv. Lige indtil den dag, hvor en flok spanske tjenestepiger flytter ind lige hen over deres herskabslejlighed. De spanske herligheder forstår at sætte fod i fejemøjet, og inden længe ramler de perfekte rammer, som især Suzanne ivrigt forsøger at opretholde. Intet synes at være det samme igen i familien Jouberts ellers hidtil uforanderlige hverdag. Kvinderne på 6. sal er en rigtig feel-good film på fransk manér. Det er underholdning af den subtile slags, hvor humoren skal findes i detaljerne. Filmen fortæller som sådan ikke noget, vi ikke har hørt før, men dens uhøjtidelige og komiske univers er afgjort et syn værd for alle dem, der måtte have en forkærlighed for spralske señoritaer og pariserstemning. 4 stjerner. Begynder eller slutter livet ved de 40? Det spørgsmål er omdrejningspunktet i Klassefesten, som fokuserer på 3 venner, der alle har kvaler med at tilpasse sig livet som voksen. De 3 halvgamle klassekammerater får rig lejlighed til at konfrontere ungdommens drømme, der er en klassefest er under opsejling, og de må tage turen tilbage til gymnasiet for at sande, at tingene ikke nødvendigvis gik helt som de ønskede sig. Undervejs bliver der lagt op til adskillige komiske optrin, alt imens de 3 venner forsøger at løse hinandens kvaler på en ikke altid lige velovervejet vis. Manuskriptet er skrevet af folkene bag den ganske rædselsfulde Simon og Malou, som her har fundet et emne med noget mere substans. Desværre har forfatterne også videreført den samme tvivlsomme humoristiske tone, og selv de gode indfald bliver ofte leveret på en måde, der gør, at man alligevel ikke griner. Fjollet humor er der overvældende meget af i filmen, og selvom enkelte episoder fungerer, så forbliver lattermusklerne for det meste ganske uberørte. Til gengæld er trekløveret i hovedrollerne velspillende, og ikke mindst Nikolaj Kopernikus' identitetssøgende figur bliver en bærende kraft for filmen. Ja, Kopernikus er endda det eneste, der forhindrer filmen i at skrabe bunden fuldstændigt. 2 stjerner. Den danske Filmskolens Efteruddannelse præsenterer løbende interessante seminarer og foredrag, som både filmbranchens medlemmer og menige filmentusiaster kan melde sig til. Eksempelvis kan man fra den 28. til 30. oktober deltage i en workshop med Thomas May, som fortæller om nye online-muligheder inden for filmdistribution, såsom crowdfunding, fan-databaser, e-mail-kampagner, video on demand og meget mere. Senere, den 12. og 13. november, taler den legendariske filmproducer Christine Vachon om sit arbejde inden for filmbranchen. Vachon har blandt andet arbejdet på film som Boys Don't Cry, Far From Heaven, 1 Hour Photo og Happiness. Sidst i november tilbyder skolen også et kursus med fokus på den visuelle fortælling, og dokumentarinstruktøren Jon Bang Carlsen slår også et smut forbi Filmskolen i december. Du kan læse meget mere om skolens kommende events på efu.filmskolen.dk, hvor du kan studere uddannelsens program og læse mere om, hvordan du selv tilmelder dig de forskellige arrangementer. Men nu skal det handle om et seminar, der allerede er løbet af stablen på Filmskolen, nemlig weekendens seminar med Peter Suschitzky, den fantastiske filmfotograf, som har skudt alle David Cronenbergs film siden Blodbrødre fra 1988, samt film som Mars Attacks og ikke mindst Star Wars episode 5, Imperiet, slår, igen. Efter seminarets første dag fangede vi Suschitzky i Filmskolens biografsal til en samtale om hans fornemme karriere.
Your father, Wolfgang, is also a cinematographer,
yes,
of course.
Yes.
And was it always in the cards, though, for you that you would become a photographer yourself when you grew up?
I don't know if it was on the cards. It was a possibility because I was always interested in and obsessed by images. When I started as a photographer very young, I started taking photographs when I was 5 or 6. I started to develop them when I was 6 or 7. And I always loved interpreting the world through images. But I was more in love with music than I was with film. I love film, but if I was asked to choose, I would have said I loved music before film. And when I left school, I wanted to start studying music, but it was my father who wisely said to me, keep music for pleasure, and you have a certain skill in photography, why don't you go to a film school?
But how did you came to be involved in Empire Strikes Back?
I learned afterwards that it was really something that George Lucas had hit upon. He liked the images of a certain film that I shot, my first movie in fact. He seems to have been impressed with that when he was at film school, so he called me because of that.
It's interesting because Irvin Kershner also was his teacher at film school as well. So
yes. I was approached about the first one, and I went to the meeting and I said, look, I don't really have the qualifications for this. You should ask Jeffrey Unsworth to shoot it, because he'd just shot 2001 and I don't have any special effects training or experience. And they said, well, you may be right, but first of all, he's unavailable and we like your work. But the studio, thinking of George Lucas as somebody inexperienced, thought that they should put him together with somebody experienced. And that's what they did. They prevailed upon him to work with a very good cinematographer who'd shot one of Kubrick's films and 2 or 3 of Polanski's films. My memory goes back to the first week of shooting when we went to Norway to shoot the snow scenes. Not the snow walkers, because they were done as models in San Francisco, but the action scenes in the snow. We had previously scouted the locations, probably in October, November time in Norway. When we arrived to do the shooting, it was January or February, January I think, and we couldn't see anything because it was snowing so hard. We couldn't get out of the hotel for the first 4 or 5 days. There were more than 100 people stuck on that location waiting for the snow to stop. And when we finally were able to shoot, you couldn't see very much because everything was just white and it was still snowing a little bit. So we could have almost have been in the studio. And I remember I lost my stills camera and dropped it on the floor. And it was covered by snow very quickly. So I said to the hotel manager, when do the snows melt? And he said, May, June. And I said, will you look for my camera? And he did, and he found it, and he sent it back to me.
Did it work?
No. It was
the film
rusty.
was destroyed.
Yeah, it was rusty, yes.
But the prospect of making someone a creature like Yoda, which was probably the most Abdal has ever featured in a major film,
yes.
and where the importance of it being real and credible has been the largest in any movie up until that day. That must have been a frightening prospect.
That was fun. We had maybe 4 or 5 animators pulling wires, some underneath the set, some off to the side, some behind us, all working at making this doll look credibly alive. I think they muddled it. I'm convinced they muddled the voice and some of the mannerisms on the director. Kirshner. It had his voice.
Sounds like him. I saw an interview with him and I recognized that immediately as well. Yeah. But then with Empire Strikes Back being such a huge success, why haven't you worked on any of the future Star Wars, like at least Return of the Jedi?
I don't know the chronological order of things, but I was asked to shoot Howard the Duck. And looking at the script, maybe foolishly, I said to myself, I don't want to work on a film in which the main character is an animatronic character. That would be very frustrating and tiresome. So I said no. And of course, one is not asked a second time. If you turn somebody down, they don't ask you again. That's why I didn't work on the other Star Wars films.
Right. Probably a good choice not to jump on Howard the Duck. It's
Probably.
Not exactly the best movie ever made.
No, I didn't see it.
No, okay. Well, you don't need to, please.
Okay.
It's universally recognized as probably one of the worst movies ever made.
Okay.
But how did you wind up meeting David Cronenberg for Dead Ringers?
Oh, that was, for me, a most lucky moment, because it's been the most satisfying collaboration of my life to work with him. Every project has been creatively challenging and intellectually stimulating. I can't think of one film, there wasn't one that was dull, and many of them were really fine. How I met him was because he had just, at that point when I met him, shortly before that he'd completed The Fly, and it had become the biggest commercial success of his career. And upon that news, the cinematographer decided it was the right moment to leave Toronto and go to try his fortune and his luck in Los Angeles. So David had to find somebody else, and maybe he wanted to find somebody else. He didn't say that to me, but I'm guessing that maybe he felt the relationship had run its course. Maybe it was purely that the man was no longer available. I don't know, but the fact was that he had a short list of people he wanted to meet, probably not more than 5 people, and I was on that list, fortunately. Fortunately, we enjoyed each other's company as soon as we met. We had dinner together in London where he was meeting with Jeremy Irons, I think. And that's when he decided to go with me, and I certainly had no problem about deciding to go with him, although I have to admit shamefacedly that I didn't know his work. He knew my work, but I'd never seen his films. I don't mind admitting it. Today, it seems funny that I went into that meeting not knowing a single one of his films. But I had read the script, and although I didn't know his films, I thought that the script was terrific and had the makings of a very good movie in it.
And how would you say your relationship has developed since Dead Ringers and all the years between?
We remained friends. Yeah, we hit it off straight away. The first day of shooting was very exciting. It felt almost like a love affair straight away, because we understood each other without the need to talk very much. We had talked before the shoot, much more than we talk now. But in the preparation of that film, we saw 2 or 3 movies by other people. Maybe I'd chosen 1 or 2 of them, and he said, why don't we see another one? And that way we talked about what we liked and didn't like in those films as far as the visuals were concerned. I had operated other films before, but probably only 2 or 3. I think I started operating movies in France. I shot a couple of small, low-budget French movies and operated on them myself and enjoyed the process. And when I met with David, he said, I prefer the cinematographer to be also the operator, because that way I have only one person to talk with. And I said, okay, I like it too. And I like it now so much that I would not like to work with an operator, especially on his films. The only time I would consider working with a camera operator would be if I did another large budget film, because they tend to be more political than any other, than smaller films. And it's good to have an ally. I feel to have an ally in the camera operator to support me.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that I really like about Cronenberg's films, and it was a thread that I really recognized when we saw a lot of the clips today, is that he delves a lot into the worlds beneath what you see immediately. Like in A History of Violence, there's the criminal undercurrent. There's the life that he has had before. In Eastern Promises, there's also the double life going on. Dead Ringers, there's the beautiful facade of the brothers' work life. There's the whole world breaking down in in their private lives, and of course in Spider, this whole subliminal world of the memories of the main character. Do you work a lot of in terms of visuals to hint at that difference between those different worlds?
I don't know if I do or not, but I like that aspect of his work. That he likes to delve below the surface of his characters, and it does affect me. I'm sure it affects the way I visualize, I light the scenes, but I couldn't tell you specifically what it makes me do. But it makes me go towards more expressionistic cinematography, and I like the expressionists very, very much. When I saw Dead Ringers, which was the first movie that I shot with David, when I saw the extract now, I felt there are many weaknesses in my work, and I would love to go back and shoot it again. At least in my imagination, I'm doing it as I watch it, and I was squirming within myself, embarrassed at the weaknesses that I saw.
We appreciate it a lot, though. So. But you can suggest to Cronenberg to maybe do a remake. That's all the rage these days.
I don't believe in remakes. I think it's a mistake. And yeah, I do. I've done one remake.
Which one was that?
It was called The Vanishing.
Ah, yeah.
Not entirely bad by any means, but not as good as the original.
He's really developed some sort of rapport with Viggo Mortensen. Why do you think that is, and do you share that rapport, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah, he's a fine actor, and he's more than lovely to work with. He's a delightful person, and he seems to get under the skin of the character that he's playing in a marvellous way. I think our filming approach is becoming more and more pared down, more and more simplified. We shoot fewer angles and fewer takes, which is dangerous, but fun. We both arrive at the studio and look at a rehearsal of the first scene, or at least part of the first scene that we're going to shoot. He goes away and I start preparing my work. We know by then where we're going to put the camera for the first couple of shots at least. I start lighting the scene, and then he'll come back when it's ready. It's as simple as that. We don't need to talk very much about it. He always has a video link in his trailer, so you can see what I'm doing. Didn't used to have that, but he has had in recent years. I'm in favor of keeping a percentage of my mind open until the day we're filming, so that although I'm prepared, reasonably prepared enough to work quickly, I'm not closed to a new idea when I see the first rehearsal.
We talked a lot about in the seminar that you're not a huge fan of handheld, but we've had this dogma movement, which is really, I guess, nauseating, almost like as part of the concept. What do you think of dogma?
Well, first of all, I don't go to the cinema to see what you asked me. First of all, what do I think of Danish cinema? I don't go to see a movie for the photography. I go to see a movie, hopefully, to enjoy the whole. I would always rather see a spirited, touching, moving, exciting movie that was badly photographed than a beautifully photographed, very boring film. So it's not the first thing that attracts me, it's the film as a whole that attracts me. What do I think of dogma movement? Well, maybe it was something necessary to shake up. Now and then we need to shake up, somebody needs to shake up the world of cinema, the world of art, the world of music, whatever. And that partially, Lars von Trier did shake things up. But I'm anti-dogma in anything. I don't like dogma in religion, above all. I hate it in religion. I don't like dogma in politics or economics. I don't think it has a place in art at all. It's a catchword. I think it was a good commercial ploy. Okay? And I think he's a very gifted man who likes to shock. He's expected to shock. I don't see the point, frankly, of hand-holding in his films, and I don't understand why he switched at the beginning from very classical, beautiful classical surrealist style photography to violently handheld photography. I don't understand what it adds to the pleasure or illumination of the viewer to make them sick. I really don't understand what plus it brings. I don't think it brings a plus. If somebody asked me, would I like to work with him, I would say yes. But if it's going to be handheld, then I want an operator who will do it, because I don't want to do it myself. But he's a gifted man. I don't deny it. He's gifted, but I don't appreciate the unstable image. It does make me sick in the stomach.
So what do you say when people say that they think handheld makes it more real and immediate? Do you think that's a...
I don't agree, because I said in our seminar today that when you're walking down the street without a camera, the image in your mind, in your brain that is interpreting the image that hits your retina, is perfectly stable and smooth. When you walk down the street with a camera, it goes like that. So you have the steady cam. It's not more real, because it's not like your life. It's more like a home movie, yes. But what's the virtue of a home movie? I don't think that a home movie has any particular virtue. It has an impact for the family that's looking at the home movie, because they don't mind suffering the bad image, because they're watching their family and their friends. But show it to a stranger and they get bored very quickly. If you were sat through a series of home movies, I'm sure you've tried to avoid it in the future. Well, I try to avoid movies that are handheld because they make me physically sick. And I repeat, I don't understand what plus the hand holding brings to the experience of the film.
But like you say, it's really much the movie as a whole that appeals to you. So would you ever look at a script and think, I'm not sure about the story, but visually I can see doing something interesting with this?
No, I try to work on films with a script that means something to me and would draw me make me go and see it. I don't believe that images in the abstract, without an interesting context, have any meaning in cinema. They do in painting. A single image has no other context except itself, but a cinematographer's work is in the context of a whole film. So the script is the key to me, first, because it's the backbone of the film. I have no interest in making pretty pictures with a script that doesn't appeal to me.
Tim Burton has such a distinct visual style, probably one of the most distinct in the business.
Yes.
So you would ordinarily think that he maybe is difficult to work with because he has really a strong perception of what he wants to do. Is he difficult to work with?
No. He was a total delight. He likes laughing a lot, and I like laughing too, but he laughed to himself with delight at what he was doing, and I think he must always be like that. There was an anxious time, if you like, during preparation, because he wanted to do the Martian characters as animated dolls, animated puppets. And he gathered together a big team of people, up to 50 people, making costumes and painting the faces, creating the characters, up to 50 animators and costume people. And the studio looked at the budget and they said, "You've spent too much, we're going to stop the movie." So they stopped the movie, and the producer said, "Well, we'll try and get it going again, but we're not sure how long it'll take to do that." And they wanted to keep me there on salary, and I said, "Well, Cronenberg is going to shoot another film in 2 months' time. Do you think I've got time could you release me to shoot it?" And Tim didn't want to release me. I pressured him a bit, and he finally let me go. And I shot Crash and came back in time to shoot Mars Attacks. Was he difficult to work with, was the question, but not at all, not at all. He has a pretty simple filming approach. He has a definite style of his own, but in terms of the actual filming, the angles, it's pretty classical and simple, with few cuts. I would love to have worked with him again, but my feeling is that because the film was a total disaster, and when that happens, sometimes directors want to change everybody because they want to change the karma or the bad luck. If you worked on a very successful film last year, everybody wants you even if you swept the floor, because there's a certain amount of superstition around films. You might bring good luck, good karma to the next film. That's my interpretation of why I haven't worked with him again. It's not because I didn't want to, it's because I haven't been asked to. As long as I can find interesting movies to work on as a cinematographer, I'll be happy. I might get to a point where I feel I'd like to direct. I've thought about it from time to time.
You just shot your first movie 100% in digital.
Yes.
How was that experience, and do you prefer digital now?
I now prefer it, yes. I wouldn't like to go back to film because the result is so good that it seemed to be as I would have loved film to be, but film never got to that point of being carrying so much information. And it didn't look, the camera we used, the Arriflex, made it look filmic. It didn't make it look mechanically digitized. So I thought it was terrific.
One of the things you taught about is you like shooting with wide lenses,
yes.
Also for close-ups, so where you'd get a lot of depth in the image and you'd really be able to see the background much more.
And I like the drama that they bring.
Mm-hmm. But that then makes me think of not only digital being all the rage these days, but also 3D, where you really get to play with depth. Is that something you'd experimented with or would like to?
I've never shot a 3D film, and I wouldn't shoot a 3D film for the sake of shooting a 3D film. If it happened to be a good script with a good director, and happened to be in 3D, then yes, fine.
Husk som sagt, at du kan læse meget mere om kurserne på Filmskolens Efteruddannelse på efu.filmskolen.dk. Det var alt for denne gang på Films TV, men vi er tilbage igen efter en enkelt uges efterårsferie med endnu mere eksklusivt materiale og endnu flere anmeldelser. På gensyn. Husk, at du let kan finde alle vores Films TV-udsendelser på hjemmesiden under Films TV-fanebladet. De ligger også i high definition på videovideo.dk, hvor du også kan finde flere udsendelser af Railgun TV, vores web-tv-program om spilverden. Du kan også læse flere anmeldelser og artikler på Films, som du kan diskutere i vores omfattende forum.